Hi there, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rainbows, and today we are making easy holiday gnomes made from cones. And look, I made a family. This was a gift for someone very special who also loves gnomes, and if you'd like to make it, stick around. Be sure to like this video so that I know you're here crafting with us. We're gonna start out by making this beautiful lady here with the braids. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna roll a bit of fabric on around a cone. I used the taller cones for this one. And all we're gonna do is go about halfway up because we don't need a ton of fabric here. So you can see we just measured it so it looped around and gave us a bit of a seam allowance so that we can either match the pattern or just faux hem it with some hot glue. And then I tacked it in place. So what I had a vertical pattern, so I wanted the center of my gnome to have, there you go, see? I wanted that to be straight up and down. So I just tacked that into place with a little hot glue. You can see here I'm going to do the top so that it doesn't move because these cones do allow, they're just paper mache cones, and they do allow for some movement. So then what I did is I'm just moving over around the cone and just tacking things lightly in place, and you can see here it doesn't take very long. I think this whole part of the process takes you about 2 minutes, but when you get to the end, I had a flannel fabric and so I needed to create a hem, but what I did is I just folded it over and did it that way. So this is the back of my gnome, gives it a nice vertical seam. And then to cover the bottom, what we're going to do is we're going to snip all the way around, and then we're just going to fold over. So put a little dab of hot glue right on the bottoms there, and then fold it into the cone. So for this gnome, I didn't cover the bottom, but I am going to show you how to cover it if you'd like to, because I wanted stacking gnomes so that they could put them away for the holidays and they would be protected. Okay, so once you have that all around, and again, I'm going to show you how to cover it if you want to cover that bottom, but we're going to move on to, so you see here, it's pretty. We're going to move on to making braids. Now listen, this is my favorite of faux fur. It's called Mongolian. It has a 3-inch long pile. It is absolutely gorgeous. If you've never cut faux fur, I'm going to link a video for you up there on how to work with it. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut 3 strips. Now mine were only about 1/2 inch thick, and you can see here they're not perfect. They're not perfectly straight. There's wonky bits. So you want to make them almost perfectly straight-ish. It's a very forgiving piece. And so I brushed mine so that I could just have everything going the same way. And then if you have a clipboard, you could totally use that. I still can't find, I made this 2 years ago and I still can't find my clipboard. So I just used a binder clip and some blue tape and made my own fastening system. Bam! Right there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to separate out each of these pieces and we're just going to braid. Now, just like a normal braid, you're going to do a thicker bit at the top than you are at the bottom. Unlike a normal braid, you are going to be twisting this so that the fabric backing is hidden. So if you just kind of push it together a little bit, make sure that that fur falls down on the side, and then be sure to brush all the errant pieces into it, but then you sort of twist and you lay it right on top of the other pieces. It was surprisingly easy to make these. I put it off for a really long time, but I am very happy with how they turned out. And so you're just going to go all the way down, and if you see one of these little hanging pieces, just cut that off without cutting the faux fur, and it works perfectly fine. So we're just going to speed all this up, make her little braids, and when we get to the bottom, so you can see I'm making smaller and smaller pieces. When we get to the bottom, I'm going to use a piece of tape just to hold it here for a second. So you can see I'm just using blue tape. And then I grabbed a piece of embroidery thread. I didn't want the ties to be very pronounced, so I used a very thin piece of black embroidery thread. You can use ribbon if you'd love to make the tie, the braid stand out. And well, I didn't want to, so what I did is I just tied it with some embroidery ribbon, flipped it over, and then I put the knots at the back. So I double tied the knot in front and double tied the knot in back. And then I just snipped off the ends so that they would be hidden. So now after you make your second braid, they're not going to be even no matter how hard you try, and this is how you make them even. So you turn it over and cut the bottoms to match the other length. Regardless of how long the fabric is, your goal is to make them look like this, where they're the same height. Okay? All right, so now all we're gonna do, as you can probably guess, is we're going to position these. I wanted a little hangover to match the hangover on the beard of my daddy gnome. So you do you, however you want these to go. But I just made sure to get them relatively in a good place, and then I hot glued them down. Now here's the thing, I did hot glue them pretty securely down because I had a little like 3-year-old at the time when I made these, and I didn't want them to pop off, so I did use a lot of hot glue. But if for the little baby gnome, all I did was use a single piece and then just give it a little tie, no braid or anything. It looks super cute. Okay, so if you've never made a gnome hat, the cone ones are super easy. You're just going to take a square-ish piece of fabric and you're going to roll it into a funnel shape, and you're going to cut that off into like a rounded off triangle. I'll show you in a little bit more detail with the daddy gnome. It's easier to see than on this minky fabric. I just gave it a rough hem on the sides so that I can know where to position my little gnome nose. And you can use anything for gnome noses, wood beads, buttons, clay beads that you make, anything you want. So this is just the bottom rim of the hat. And now that I have it, I'm making sure that it fits over the top of the nose. I'm gonna have my hat sort of flopped over. To do this, just secure a tiny piece at the bottom and then remove it so that you don't get gunky glue all over your cone gnome in case you want like reversible or interchangeable hats. And then all you're gonna do is glue this together. You can take this to a sewing machine. Nothing is stopping you. I'm a bit lazy, and so I use my hot glue gun. All right, so that's it, and you can see this is 100% secure with the hot glue. Just don't move it until the glue dries, and you can see it's got this nice beautiful seam in there. And once you put it on, when you put your hat on, I always like to position the nose first, just because I like that squinchy look. But you can secure it however you want, and do secure in the front and the back if this isn't an interchangeable hat gnome. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the fella. And so what I did is I measured how long I wanted my beard to be. I cut a triangle using only a razor blade and the faux fur backing. And then I positioned it on. I did want a bit more pronounced mustache, so I snipped off a little piece of a rectangle and then just glued that right to the very top. So I lined up the tops of the faux fur right there on my gnome. See him? And he's covered, his bottom is covered in the minky fabric of the little girl's body, or a hat. So this all coordinates together, and we're doing the same thing. We're gonna stick on our beautiful nose here, and then we're gonna make a felt hat. So the felt hats are super easy because you don't have to do it much. You just basically cut a triangle with a rounded off bottom. And to cover the bottom of the gnome, you're going to trace the cone, cut a piece of felt, and then glue it on. That's it. Now these wet gnomes aren't weighted, but again, I wanted them to be able to stack. So that's what helped me. All right, so once you have your hat, you just glue the big long seams together and position it onto your gnome. And for decorations, you can do whatever you want. I chose to use a garland of berries and greenery. For this guy, you can see him here. The mommy gnome got nothing, and the baby gnome just matches both of them. So what do you think? Let us know in the comments which one is your favorite. Like this video, it helps us so much. Share this video if you thought it was a really fun craft. And as always, please subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots for more crafty fun.